Okay, so the first thing you want to do is put this all the way down and take the cover off and take the air cleaner off. Okay, and then you put that down, the choke lever down, so that shuts the choke, and then you don't drop anything down inside of there. Okay, so we'll have to remove these. We'll have to remove some more stuff off here to get at these limiter caps. We're going to check this out. Okay, so just pull this out of the way. You can see those limiter caps right there. Okay, now I watched another YouTuber video, and he took those caps off and it fixed his problem. But to me, like, why did it fix the problem? Obviously now, by taking the limiter caps out, you can adjust the carburetor more. But you know, was there an air leak? Because if there was an air leak, that would make sense why all of a sudden the chainsaw started dying, and you know, basically it needs more fuel and it's not getting it, so it's dying. So by taking these limiters off and then turning them out, that's just kind of putting a band-aid on the problem. So we have to find out if it in fact has an air leak or not. But I'm going to take these limiter caps off and see if I can adjust it up, adjust it out, and give this saw more fuel just to see if it'll actually make it continue to run. I've already checked the spark plug, it's not that. And I also checked the fuel cap. I cracked the fuel cap to make sure there wasn't a venting issue. So that didn't fix it. So if I pull these caps off and all of a sudden it runs fine, then we must have an air leak somewhere, right? So we'll figure that all out. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this off so I can get at the limiter caps there. And there they are. There they are. Just snap off of there. Oops. There we go. Let's put this thing back together and we'll adjust it up and see what if it runs after. I'll just richen it up a bit and see what happens. Okay, we'll see what these are at. So we'll go to the high jet here. The low jet is always at the front and high jet's at the back. So we'll go half. Oops, half. So it's 3/4 of a turnout. So we'll go half, 1. We'll go 1.5 just to see. And what's this one at? This one's at half. 3/4. Oh no, sorry, there's 1. Actually 1. Just about 1.5, so half, 1, 1.5. We'll go 1 3/4. Okay, let's put it all back together and we'll go try it. So yeah, the backing out the mixture screws, it helped it slightly, but obviously, you know, there's still an issue here, so I could keep backing them out and it'll get a little bit better, but it's not the right way to fix it. So we're going to continue on and diagnose it here. Okay, so here I'm just going to pull the vent line off and just fire it up again just to verify that there's not an issue with the tank vent there. Okay, so I took the fuel filter off just to check it. Everything looked good there. Then I'm pressuring up the fuel line to see if there was any pinholes in the hose, and I don't see any pressure loss or anything. And I sprayed the hose with soap and water. I don't see any bubbles, so it's all good. So I guess we're gonna go in and check the carb, because I unplugged the vent and it's still and I undid the tank cap and it still acted up. So we'll go in and check the carburetor and see if it what the diaphragm and whatnot looks like. Right in there. Okay, so the carb's off. We'll pressure it up here. It does hold pressure. So the needle and seat are sealing. So we'll check this diaphragm out and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so that diaphragm, there's a little pinhole in the cover, so it is open to atmosphere, so it's going to get a little bit of dust in there. Okay, so I cleaned all the carb up here. This thing has a main jet in it. Like the high jet, I should say. That's for the high jet. I don't know if you can see that well, but anyway, they're super tiny. Do not lose these. I just did. I dropped it. I was thinking about telling you guys not to lose it, and then I did it myself, but I got it. Anyway, a little trick here is you want to blow through these. Like, you need compressed air here. You can't just blow with your mouth. You need an actual little air nozzle, and blow through these jets. Blow through one way and then hold it up to the light, like just if it's daylight outside, or up to a light if you're indoors. Make sure you can see through it, and then turn it around 180 and do it again, and blow through it and then look again, because sometimes a little flap of dried up old fuel can get caught up in there, and it kind of works like a one-way check valve. It'll kind of drive you nuts there trying to chase it down. So just do that, clean everything up nice. I'm not going to do a whole video on how to clean a carb right now, but clean the whole carb up and then put it back together, and you want to pressure test it again like I showed before, and check for leaks and everything, and then put her back together. Okay, well, I put the carb back together and I tried it out, and that wasn't the problem. I'm taking the recoil off, and it is pretty ugly in here. Okay, so I'm just going to clean this out, and then after, if we check the crank seals and whatnot, we'll be able to see if there's any leaks. So I'm just going to blow this all out here. Okay, well, I had to make this little plate to plug the intake off. I just put a couple, like a little piece of a tire tube in on the intake, and in the exhaust area here. And it's holding 8 psi. It's not dropping, so the crank seals and everything's sealed up. So now I'll have to, I don't have the vacuum gauge here. I'll have to get a vacuum gauge there to check that. But if that all checks out, then it's got to be the carburetor. And although it did pressure test well and everything, there's one little brass plug in there that I didn't remove, and possibly there's something under it that's starving the engine for fuel, or it could be or I guess what it could be too is it could be it's the emulsion tube, I think they call it, has little pinholes in it. Maybe they're clogged up a little bit, and that's causing it enough to run lean, but it's definitely starving for fuel some way. So in that case, I don't think you can pull that stuff out to clean it, unless I can put it in some kind of a cleaner. And but I've heard guys say they just have to replace the carb, so I guess we'll see. Okay, well, I went over to the Stihl dealer here, and the mechanic there had another old MS250 on the shelf that they were trying to sell, and he offered to let me try the carb. So bolted this carb on, and it runs like a top. So it's definitely a carb issue, which is better than crank seals or anything like that. Okay, so there it goes. It's running good now with that used carb that we put on it. So we're going to go back inside, and I still wanted to see if I could maybe fix that old carb. So I ended up taking the carb over to the Stihl dealer there, and they actually offered to put it in the tank. So we put it in the tank to clean it all up. Pulled the Welch plug out and everything else, and we put it all back together, and no change. I just wanted to see if it would actually clean out. So in that case, you're kind of dead in the water, and you're going to have to get a new carb. These things have little check valves in them, and when the check valve goes, there's no fixing them, right? They're done. And I guess it happens every now and then on these MS250s, so we ended up ordering up a carburetor for it. Okay, well, here we are a few days later. Better have a beer here. This repair is getting serious now. So what we did was went and ordered a new carb. Brand new carb right from Stihl. I thought about buying one of those Chinese ones. I read all the reviews. Some guys were saying that the screws here didn't line up right. You know, this saw isn't for me. It's for a friend. I sold this saw, and then it started acting up. So I want to fix it right for the guy, because you know, he already bought it, and then not even a tank later the thing started acting up. So I'm not going to charge him for any of that. And we'll just put this new carb on, then it's done right. But yeah, you can't go wrong with actual Stihl parts. But look at this. I'm sure the other one said China on it. Where's the other one? Yeah, it did too. Look. Well, there you go. This one might be a little higher quality. Well, that's cool. Good to know. Anyway, they're both right there. Okay, this is pretty interesting here. I had to come into a dark room to get a good shot of this, but look at the intake they put on here. Look at all the little bumps there. You know, it used to be thought people used to smooth out the intake and whatnot, but they intentionally put those little bumps in there, probably to cause turbulence, just to atomize the fuel better. This saw just rips, like for a little 45cc saw, so there you go. That's kind of neat, eh? It's just it's all rubber in there. It's got all these little ridges on it. That's cool. I'd never seen that. I never pulled one of these apart before, actually. Okay, so we're not going to put the limiter caps on there. We're just going to leave them off. I'm going to do a muffler mod to this thing after we put the carb on, so I'll probably have to richen up that high jet. So we'll just leave them off for this one. Look at this. This is the old the boot that goes right on there for your mixture screws, high and low, and then for the fuel tank vent. But on this one, this is the one that came with the carburetor. They extended this piece, so that's for that would be the low jet. It just makes it a little easier to get on the screwdriver on there. I did fight to find those little screw holes when I was going through the cover. So this is kind of nice. They've improved it. So I'm hoping they improve the carb as well. Maybe it'll last a little longer than the old one. Okay, let's give her a Michael bolt on here and we'll get this thing going. There you go. There you go. Much, much easier to get on the screw head for the low. Right on, that's nice. This is why it pays to buy factory, like OEM parts versus China. Chinese stuff is nice, it's cheap, but it, it's never as high a quality as the stock OEM parts. Look at how good a shape this saw is in, I used it quite a bit, like a lot. It was on my quad, in the bush, everything, but it sure cleaned up nice. I cleaned this thing up really good before I sold it, but look at the sprocket too. Quite a bit of use on this saw, and the sprocket's, hardly worn. That's the difference that, when you buy something that's high quality, that is the difference. That's what you're paying for, or that's what you should be paying for. You get a little cheaper, Poolin homeowner saw. It's not going to be the same thing, the same quality, but you also pay a lot less for it. Anyway, let's bolt her back together, get this thing in the wood. Okay, well, this is a different day, but I got that carburetor bolted on, that new carb, and it seems to be running really good. So I put my tack on it, and the spec for this saw is 14,000 RPM max, and I set it up at like 12.9, 13,000. So it's plenty rich enough then. Well, there you go. So that's how you fix an MS250 with a bog. If it's not your mixture screws, then it's probably the carb. Could have been a crank seal or something there too, but we showed in the video there that wasn't the case. So I did talk to the Stihl dealer, and he said that it is common enough that they do need a carb. So this one's made in the Philippines, the other one's made in China. Maybe this one's a little more updated, or a little better quality. I guess we'll find out. That one there lasted about 5 or 6 years, so we'll see how this one does.